Everyone. I'm Kristal Kraft. I'm from Denver, Colorado, and I admit I'm a blogger. I was invited here to talk to you about blogging, and I see that there are quite a few people that are blogging in the area. And it always surprises me because it's one way to get business. You know how often we work and we do things that it's done and you never see it again, you see no results from it? The one good thing about blogging is when you take the time to write something and you publish it to the web, it stays there. You know that saying that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? Well, what happens on the internet stays on the internet, and on Facebook, and on Twitter, and everywhere. And that is a good thing, because if you're blogging to your consumer and they find you, or they go looking for you, they'll find you there, and that's basically the point. When I say business blogging, I'm talking specifically of business, not personal diaries. And I think that's what blogging got a bad rap for years ago when it first started, that everybody got up and started talking about what they had for breakfast and what they were going to do and yada yada, and it was pretty boring. But business blogging is basically about blogging to your consumer. And you have to define who your consumer is. You don't want to be a generalist that writes to everybody, because when you try to be everything to everyone, you're nothing to anyone. But as you start blogging to the person that you really want to work with, they find you. And all of a sudden, writing becomes much easier. I was just talking to a gentleman. Where did he go? He's, yeah, way in the back. So much for being a helping out blogger person. But you're blogging to the medical community. And I think that's an awesome niche, because right then and there, he has a defined community of people he wants to reach, and he knows how to speak their language. Come up front, yeah. It's lonely up here. Blogging also has a longer life than print ads. I always joke about the newspaper ads that we spend so much money for. They end up lining the parrot cage, you know, and what parrot is going to buy a house? It's also very easy to blog today because we have these new CRM platforms. By CRM, it's content relation management, and it is like WordPress. I'm basically a WordPress fanatic. I started blogging on another platform called Typepad. I've blogged on Active Rain, and none of those are really true blogging platforms. WordPress is awesome. WordPress is a free platform, and it's constantly getting better. And the beauty of it is you can take a WordPress site and turn it into a website or a blog or both. You don't have to have a lot of technical knowledge. It's made to be simple. So I always say, if you can type an email or write something in Microsoft Word, you can blog. It's that simple. You just have to remember to push publish. The other thing is, blogs can speak to many people. You know, when we write an email answering questions to our clients, and believe me, we all have those questions. They come a mile long. How do I do this, this, and this? What happens when? Well, what if you turn that into a blog? You send that email to the person, and then next week you got to answer the same questions again. Well, if you take and you create a blog post from those questions, then all you have to do the next time they come up is send them a link, like, oh, you know what, this has come up before. And your question is, you know, very important, and I've answered it here. So it kind of saves you on work as well. And the best part of it is consumers will research you. Chris Smith was just talking about how they're researching our ratings. They're researching us, they're Googling our names. They find us and they know more about us before they pick up the phone and call us than we even know. In a way that's scary, but I kind of like it, because when I get that phone call and they say, I want you to sell me a house, or a few months ago I had the best one on Twitter. Some guy who's moving to Colorado from Connecticut, he goes, I want you to sell me a house. And I'm like, don't say that here on Twitter. I mean, there's zillions and zillions of people. He goes, oh no, don't worry, you are my agent. Don't you love it? I mean, you've got loyalty before you even know them. Well, that's what happens. When you're blogging, people can determine your personality, they can determine your knowledge level, which we all have, and they can decide that, yes, I want to work for you. And it happens again and again and again. Did I go backwards that time? I'm controlling this with my iPhone. Have you seen this done before? It's really cool. Yeah, I also have a little bit of crib notes here, and then I have each slide so I can see what you're looking at without having to look at it. I just wish the printing was bigger. It's Keynote, and it's on the iPad. So you have Keynote, which I think is a small amount, and then you have Keynote Remote, which is free. It's awesome. So blogs work well in attracting your customer, and when you're blogging, you don't want to be advertising. You have a friendly, it's actually called attraction marketing or pull marketing. And by that, it's the opposite of push marketing. And us as realtors have always been so used to push marketing. You know, buy from me, I'm the greatest, I'm number one, yada, yada. That is so repulsive to people. They don't want to hear about you. They want to know what you know about them and how you're going to help them. So that's basically what blogging is. It's that attraction marketing. And Nielsen Ratings did a survey, it's been a couple of years ago, but when they did, they came up with advertising is a term that is most closely associated with false. So we don't want to advertise and be assumed that we're false right away. So why not blog? As you're blogging, you're going to be using your terms, your keywords. And you know, the keywords are the words that people put into here on Google. And so you're going to use specific keywords when you're blogging. And that's why it's important to find your niche. Once you find your niche, you're going to determine what those keywords are from that niche, and you're going to stick to it. So I usually tell people to come up with a list of keyword phrases that, you know, they can be infinite, but initially you want to start with, say, 8. And on each page, each blog, you're only going to focus on one. You're not going to try to write to all the neighborhoods in the area. You're going to write to the one specific neighborhood. You know, in my area, it would be like a Washington Park. One small, specific homes for sale in Washington Park, housing styles in Washington Park. That's what people are searching for. And as you use that theme, the theme gets stronger and stronger on your blog, and you become more of an authority for those particular terms. So once again, as I said before, you have that niche. Rather than writing in generalities, you'll never be found. Writing in specific, you will. Just think big fish, small pond. Does that make sense? So here's some examples. When you're talking about niche marketing, let's see if this is going to work. Yes. Maybe not quickly. Where is that Verizon 4S, whatever? Here's some niche marketing that you'll find. Uh-oh, I lost my total connection. Anyway, single women is a very good topic to talk about. And there's a gal who writes this single women site that is not coming up. I may have to skip this part of my presentation. Anyway, smart homes, or smart women buy homes. So she has a very specific niche, and I'm sure it doesn't mean that she won't sell to guys, but she's a #1 agent in her office of 160 people, and she does quite well just from this website. She says it's 70% of her business. Another one, and you might want to just copy these down for looking at later, but the Good Life team, they're out of Austin, Texas, and they talk about urban living, which is definitely a specific style. I love their website. They talk about all the good neighborhoods, and they don't mean good as opposed to bad. It was just good because they're the Good Life team. And then the next one is New Hampshire waterfront homes for sale. He's stocked a lot of keywords right into his URL, which you don't need to do. But at one time, that really was helpful for getting you ranked well. And Google's not giving that much blessing on it anymore. But anyway, these folks do quite well attracting people who want to live on the waterfront. So that is definitely a niche. The one that I really wanted to show you, sorry about this, is the Skip the Outfit, Florida. Can you guess what this is? This gal sells to people who want to be in nudist colonies. Definitely a niche. Didn't have any interesting pictures, so I guess we aren't really missing anything, not being able to be connected up. And then the next one is the Extreme team. This is a team of people who are doing short sales. And on her site, she talks about all the things associated with short sales. And I don't know how you feel about that. Personally, I'm not really into majoring in that because I think it's a dead-end business. Hopefully it is. And then the last one is one that Jay Thompson does. And Jay Thompson is the Phoenix real estate guy. He's got a very popular national blog. But when I put out a question on Facebook about really good niche sites, he sent back this one. And it's, I don't even know how to say it, Agreedotopia Real Estate. And it's basically a builder came up with that name. And it's very high-density housing, which I guess you guys are used to. But out west, you know, it's not quite like that. And they have no yards, but they have a garden in the middle that they all share. And it's really cool. So, you know, a lot of the younger folks are really into that. They don't really want to have to take care of their yard, but they love having the garden and having all the natural foods right there. And Jay tells me that he does no blogging on this site. This is for you who don't want to blog. But he says it really gets leads because it's one of those very small niches that people hear about. They go search, and next thing you know, he has them as the lead. And what he has on that site is floor plans of houses. There's probably a dozen or so different floor plans in the complex, and so that's what he's selling. It's those. Let me see if I can get hooked up here again. So usually the biggest complaint with people is, how do you find the time to blog? It's hard. It is truly, truly hard. One of the things I like about blogging on WordPress is you can schedule blogs for the future. So if you feel real industrious, like say you've got Saturday morning with nothing to do, you can go write a bunch of them and schedule them for the whole week. And I do that frequently. I also do a blog called the Denver Photo Blog. And it has nothing but photos. If I feel like writing something, I will. But the whole point of that site is just to illustrate what it looks like to live in Denver in the metro area. It's probably my favorite blog. It's my easiest. And I get leads from that. And the only place on that entire blog they even know I sell real estate is under the About. And I have a link back to my main blog. So you think, well, that's not very strong. Well, you'd be surprised how strong it is. Because my major is relocation, and I joke, I tell people that when I moved to Denver, I was an experienced agent, and I thought about my ideal client, and that was basically someone who didn't live there yet, because they were the only people I knew more than. So when I started writing my website and my blog, I would write to people who didn't live there, because the ones who did live there, they were the ones telling me how to do things. So it was the way I was able to use my knowledge. And that was back in the mid-90s. And I've been able to leverage that knowledge into knowing a lot about not just Denver, but relocation and getting people coming in from the other parts of the country. Because my ideal client is one who has to buy a house in 3 days and has money to do it. They're totally motivated. So that's who I'm writing for. I create a calendar. And on WordPress, there's a plugin called the WP Calendar, and it's a hyphen. And it's actually gets added to WordPress, and then you can go see the calendar for the month, and you can see what's scheduled there. So the best thing to do is figure out a day that you're going to do certain things. Like, okay, the statistics come out in the beginning of the month, so I want to have the stats out by the 10th. On Saturdays, I use borrowed material that is offered from US Home Inspect, and I think that's the URL, US Inspect or US Home Inspect. They have an awesome library of videos that you can go take. They're hosted on YouTube, so you just go grab the code. So I went, like 3 months ago, I went out there and I scheduled for the next Saturday for the rest of the year all their videos, so I don't even have to think about my content there. This gentleman in the front, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Robert, says he buys material from Bring the Blog, which is Dan Green. He's here. He has really good content that he puts out 5 days a week, except on holidays. So that's another way that you can fill your blog up with information. And if you don't want to use his information every day, you can use parts of it. So it's really quite nice. Basically, just create your categories. And when you get into that niche, the category is going to become very apparent to you. You know, we always lean toward the general. For instance, when I first did mine, it was Denver real estate. Of course, I had like no competition then, so it was different. Now there's millions of people trying to compete for that. But that's an ego term, you know, to be on page 1 for Denver real estate. It's really hard to stay there, and that's not where my leads come from. My leads come from the really deep interior pages. For instance, I did a map on Google where I placed all the schools on the map, and then I take that Google map and embed that in my site. This is all free. It's just time. And you can actually hire a high schooler probably to do it. And that map gets me so much business because people want to know where the schools are. They want to know private schools. Private schools are a big deal. And if you search private schools in Denver, I'm #1 usually, ahead of the schools, which is very cool. The other one is IB schools, which are International Baccalaureate. I love working with international clients because they really need me, and they're very loyal. And the International Baccalaureate page really brings in business. So when you're in that niche, you need to think about those deeper level, longer keyword phrases. And we talked about this, you know, the focus. It's much easier when you know your niche because it's kind of like, did you ever have a pen pal when you were a kid? You know, back in my day, pen pals were a big deal. We'd get a pen pal and we'd never meet them, but we'd write back and forth each week. That's kind of how I feel blogging is. You know, I'm blogging to my niche, they're my pen pal. And then you need to speak to their pain points. What's going to keep them up at night? If you can answer those questions, you know, that's basically how you write a blog. Talk about their problems. Talk about what might happen if they don't do it. That even scares them worse. And then you can talk about how to solve them. This is the solution. This is what I found works. Once you use that formula, it's pretty easy to create blogs. And then you write with intent. When you're trying to inform people, it really makes the process easier. And we have so many events right now that are happening around us. I feel like real estate is at war with the government. You know, every day we have more regulations coming out that makes it harder and harder for people to own a home. And I kind of feel like I've been adopted to write about it. A few months ago, well, actually it was last year, we had an attack on Denver by Forbes online. And Forbes came in and said Denver was the second worst market in the country, and that we had a huge absorption rate. And I'm like, wait a second, don't I live here? I don't see this. You know, I can't find homes for my buyers. We have a shortage. So I kept trying to search to figure out where the heck did they come up with these stats, and I couldn't find them. So I sent a tweet to Forbes, and I said, are you sure? Did you check your data? And they tweeted back to me, oh yes, we've checked it, the data is correct. They never should have said that. That ticked me off big time. So then I tweeted something, I got nasty. I'm from Jersey, I know how to fight. and so I sent something on Twitter like, I don't know what they're drinking at Forbes, but I think they spiked the Kool-Aid. And that kind of started it. We did some investigation and finally found out they had gotten their figures from Zillow. Need I say more? Actually, Zillow was pretty cool about it because when we found out Zillow, I think he's the president, Stewart, sent me an email and he goes, no, wait a second. This happened and had they called us, had the reporter called us and asked us about it, we would have said, oh, no, don't use those stats. Those aren't relevant to what you're writing about. But this reporter was pretty arrogant. So anyway, I started blogging about it. Long story short, they took down that post. They didn't retract. I was going for a retraction, but they deleted it. So I figured if they can't compete, they got to delete. So you're going to open your eyes to topics around you and think about the things that are going to benefit your clients. 2 years ago, I went into a huge endeavor, which I don't recommend you do, but it was probably one of the best things I did, was saying that, is I decided to write 100 days every day of relocation and real estate tips. And fortunately, I expanded it to real estate because it came a little bit more general. But every day, I wrote something and posted it, and to this day, I get more hits on that information. I wrote about how we get paid. Most people don't know. They have no clue how we get paid. I wrote about how to find your way around town without a map. We're on a grid. Most people don't know Denver's on a grid. And we started in 0, and we go north, south, east, and west. And if people know this key, they can get around without a map very simply. But things like that are insider secrets that people wouldn't know from just landing in town, those are the things that you want to write about. And then we talk about the buying timeline. NAR has some statistics out saying that it takes about 18 months from the time people decide to move until they move. I think that's even longer. Sometimes it's 18 months before they can get their house for sale, sold. But people start with the information gathering phase, and then they go shopping, and then they go into purchase. And you can tell what they're searching for. You can tell kind of where they are on that buying line when you're looking at your analytics. But it's really cool because when you think about it, the closer they are to purchasing is when they're doing those really long tail searches, like IP schools in Denver, or Denver distressed home sales, or foreclosure help for a specific area. That's so close to the decision-making process, that's when you really want to grab them. So why not name your posts those titles so people can pull them up and those folks can find you. And those are actually called long-tail keyword phrases. They're so far down the buying timeline that they're ready to do something. And that's our ideal client. Who wants to wait around 18 months? You know? So here's something that you can do with your blog. You can build a campaign. And are you familiar with, the Sweat Hogs? This was a group that used to go around and train a long time ago. And one of the things he had in Sweat Hogs was a fair trade item, where you give somebody something and you get something back in return. Well, in this case, what we're going for is we would like their email address. We would like to know who is kind of half interested in purchasing a home, and we'll give them a fair trade item if they give us their name and their email address. So here's something that I came up with doing a first-time homebuyer book. I don't know about your market, but our market's hot with first-time homebuyers, investors, and people with buku cash in the mattress. You know, those are the ones who are buying right now. And so the first-time homebuyers are kind of an easy market because we all know more than they do. And you'll start with that plan. I haven't done this yet, okay? I admit, I came up with this idea and I still have not done it, but I think it's an awesome idea. So if you want to take it and run with it, do it. So you're going to have double duty. You're going to make a timeline and you're going to write a post each day. And the post is going to relate to buying a home for first-time home buyers. And then at the end of the plan, you're going to take your posts and create them all into a PDF. And then you're going to make it an ebook in exchange for that email address. And you can use online tools. And I'm a big tool junkie, as you can see. I love using MindMap or MindJet, which is kind of an organizational chart. You can find them online. When you have a thought, you can just click it on the map, and then the thought might not be in the right process, so it's real easy to move that thought along on the line. So when you're finished, you have this nice diagram. So check those out. There's another one called iThought. And then you can use Google Docs, and if you don't have a Gmail address and you aren't into Google Docs, please do it. It's awesome, it's free, and it's in the cloud. Anyway, you take your posts and you compile them in these Google Docs, and so you can convert them to that PDF. And then here, look, I've even done the work for you. Now, you may have to New Yorkize this because we don't use attorneys. In Colorado, we shoot them. But okay. I'm sorry if there's attorneys. That was a joke. We don't really mean that. But anyway, I've written the outline for you. And if you count all these topics, I think it came to about 61 different blog posts, which you don't have to make a real long one. Just give maybe 500 words, maybe less, whatever it takes. Yes? I'll post this. I'll have this posted online. I'll give it to Jenny. You can have my presentation. Say again? You'll just have to talk to Jenny. She's asked for our presentation, so you'll have that. Or I'll tell you what, if you want to give me your email, I'll just post it and I'll put it on Google and you can have it. You're welcome. So anyway, there's your outline. It's got about 60 blog posts. You're going to write the posts. You're going to compile a PDF book. And then this is the cool part. I love buying stuff. I'm such a consumer. There's this site called Fiverr, Fiverr.com. For $5, they will do the weirdest stuff. I went on and I found someone who would design an ebook cover and paid him $5, and that's exactly what he did. I think this is out of time. There's my book. For $5, he did this graphic. Now, mind you, it's just a graphic, but it's online. Doesn't it look like I wrote a book? Yeah, isn't that cool? So what you're going to do is you're going to take and you're going to put that in the sidebar of your website or your blog with a link, and so when people click on that, they're going to fill out a form, give you their name and their email. I wouldn't ask for a whole lot of information right away. You might want to have optional, like to say, in order to get it, I need your email address and your first name, and then you might have a line that says optional, and then ask them, are you planning on buying a house, or do you know one that's buying it? Is this for a kid or whatever? Just get more information. I find that people who are really interested will fill that stuff out. In fact, they'll give you their life history right there on that email. And then you've got a live one. So the way to do it with a graphic, if you don't know how, you're probably going to have to hire someone, but it's not all that difficult on WordPress. If you come to my class tomorrow, I'm teaching how to do it. And that's a free class from 9 to 1, and it's at West Babylon at the corporate headquarters, I believe. And then you're going to link to a brief sign-up. Now, you can do sign-up sheets by going to Wufoo, and I pay Wufoo, which is wufoo.com, and it's a really easy way to make a sign-up sheet. And I have sign-up sheets for this. I have them for relocation, where I ask people a lot of questions. And what happens is when they hit submit, I get an email on my phone, and I get this sheet from them stating everything that they want. And that's like $15 a month. Or if you want to not spend any money, you can do it with Google Docs. Google Docs has this awesome form that you can make in a few minutes. And what the form does is actually take their information and input it onto a spreadsheet that is right there in your Gmail. So, and that's free. So that one really works too. So anyway, you see the book. There's the cover. And that's it. That's one tip. So what do you write about? How do you find content? Well, it's actually pretty easy to find content. You saw Chris this morning talking about setting up Google Alerts for your name. You can set up Google Alerts for anything. What is your niche? If hospitals are moving to this area. Do hospitals move? We've had 2 of them in Denver move in the past couple of years, 3 of them actually, but I don't think that's normal. But you're probably using terminology, that medical terminology for people coming into the area. Well, that's probably what you want to follow in Google Alerts. You want to follow your real estate in your area, any sort of financial change. Financial stuff might get in really a lot, but maybe more specific things. You just have to determine it from your niche. You can also follow other blogs. There are some really good blogs online that are a wealth of information. They may be in your area or may not. Agent Genius is one, has a lot of technology, new things that are affecting our industry. You can subscribe to that. There's some resources for getting content. I already mentioned the US Inspect, and that is awesome. I don't know how many articles. I've just been using their YouTube videos. And everywhere I go, I tell title companies. Do you guys use title companies? Or just, okay, title companies, they should be getting into the act. I know there's one of them. I don't have it listed here, and I'll think of it. It's one that's not on the tip of my tongue right now, but he's putting out content for realtors to use on their sites. It's awesome. So I think we should ask that from our title companies, from our lenders, from our home inspectors. We want content. We're bloggers. Give us content. We'll put it out. We'll get the word out. Anything that's going to help your consumer. My favorite in the whole world is KCM blog, the Keeping Current Matters. He's in your area. That man rocks. Steve Harney, I just love him. And there's the business journals. All over the country they have business journals. Go subscribe to them. They're the best source for keeping informed for what's going on in your area, and that's free. Outside In is another local area, and you probably can find other ones in your area that I don't even know about. Realty Track has more stats and stats. Lowe's. Lowe's is a great way to get that Inman subscription for free. Am I supposed to say that? HGTV, Front Door, they have some home care tips, and NAR's House Logic. And then Altos. Altos charges for their charts, but they do have a set that you can have for free. And no, Jerry, you don't like that? And they're not doing them anymore? You might want to check them out. Altos, the problem with them is they got so sophisticated, I felt like I had to go to college to figure out what the heck are you talking about, guys? But there are some of them there that are very good, and particularly if you're in a niche area. I covered such a huge area, it was just not cost effective for me to buy them. How do you find them? Just do a Google search. Most of these will be like a .com after it, or if you can't find, just, it would be a Google search. Business journals. Usually the business journal is named after your area, and your area is so big and it's so different. It's like you're totally different than New York City, but you're not. So I honestly don't know how to tell you. I should probably look that up for you. But the other ones are national, so they're pretty easy. And then widgets. People go, what is a widget? Widgets are little computer programming that come from a different site that they give you the code, and you can embed that code on your site and have information. One of the ones that I like right now is the Home Ownership Matters. NAR is fighting that battle for us to let the public know that home ownership does matter. And they have this really cool widget that you can go to this site where it's the realtor.org technology/NAR_widgets right there and grab that. Or do it the easy way and Google it, NAR Home Ownership Matters widget, and I'm sure you'll get it. But that can be input on the sidebar of your site, and that informs the public, and you don't even have to think about it. The content gets put up there whenever they change it, and it kind of rotates, so it's a good thing to have on your site. You can also use widgets for Flickr. I'm a big deal on photography because when people are moving to your area, they want to know what it looks like. And so the first thing they'll do is they go out and they search for photos. You can get photos on Flickr, you can get photos on Google Plus or Picasa right now. And so if you're into doing a neighborhood, you should be posting photos, you should be geotagging them and putting them up so people can find them. And it sounds like a really backdoor approach, and it is, but I sell houses that way because people want to know what something looks like. They find me and go, oh, cool, she's a realtor. I had one a couple months ago saying, I see you're an artist. And I thought, who are they talking to? But she considered me an artist because of my photography. She was an artist. We had an affiliation. I sold her a house. You can also put an IDX widget on your site. If your IDX program has that, little widgets for home search, that can go there too. And we also use widgets, in my company, we put all of our listings up on that sidebar. Here's one. This one is fabulous, and this is for WordPress. Sorry if anybody's not a WordPress user, but this plugin is made by Max Cherkoff, and his boss is with Phoenix Real Estate. He's like a big deal there, mainly because of Max. Max is an awesome programmer, and what he's done is he's made this plugin, which is also something that you import into your blog, and it will give you the ability with one post to add a location map like this, and this map is pulled up from, it's obviously a Google map, but it might be the Yelp information on it. There's also financial tools, there's market trends from Altos, and the walk score and Yelp. And if you're into making single property sites, like a lot of us go and pay extra for a single property site, which what happens to it when your house gets sold? It's gone. But if you take and you make a page on your blog for that single property site, and then even when it's sold, just mark it sold, sold for this date and this price, you've got content on your blog. So all of a sudden, you're going to affiliate with other people who want to live in that marketplace. And they'll say, oh, well, this person's been very active. She sold this house and this house and this house. And it's more content for your blog. Yeah, Jerry? Where is Max what? It is called it's Simple Real Estate Pack. So when you're in WordPress, you just go to the plugin site and you just search Simple Real Estate Pack. Or you could, well, yeah, or search Max. It's free. You're probably saying, why do they do this? When you create plugins, there's backlinks to it, and you're giving him some link love on Google for Phoenix real estate, which you guys probably don't care. People in Phoenix might care. But this is what it does. Here's your toolbar, and you can see up where I've circled in red, that's what's added. So you just click on one of those icons, and that's what you add to your single property site. And I'll show you. I already went over this. And this is one that's used by a friend of mine in Tucson. And he writes the TucsonRealEstateBlog.com, and this single property site called Rosemont. And Rosemont is the subdivision. You can see how that's in the directory of the URL. And then there's a picture of it. So if you actually write that down and go to that site, you will see that simple real estate plugin in action. It's pretty cool. And I'm sorry? That is the plugin. He's used the plugin to create this site, or this page on his site. Yes. And, well, I'm not going to get into, yes. Here's another one for you. When you have a blog, you want to add a retweet button. A lot of people are into Twitter, and they want to tweet their, when they find something that's good. And this is also an example of a map that I created in Google, where I placed all the schools on it. And the schools are the parochial schools and the private schools and Christians. Any school I could find, I just plugged on that map. And that map is resident in a couple of places. Number one, it's in Google, under Google Maps. So when people search for a map of private schools in Denver, that's going to come up. And then it's also on my website on a page that I created that's private schools in Denver. So it gets a lot of traffic. So far it's hit over 6,000 hits since I made it, and it may be a year old. So that's not too bad for a kind of a niche site. And you can take, once you make that map on Google, and I'm not going to be able to describe how to do this, but this is something you can do. Because you have a Gmail account, and if you don't, you're going to get one, you can go to Maps, and then you can create your own maps. You can just put one property on it, go grab the code, put that on your site, or you can load a bunch of information like this, like schools, grab that code, and embed that on your site. So there's essentially two uses for that. Lots of Google juice. Here's another plugin. It's called a greet box. And this actually shows up at the beginning of each post, and it can tell where the visitor has come from. So if they did a search from Bing, and they show up from Bing, it'll say, welcome, Binger, or something like that. And then it'll invite them to subscribe to your RSS feed. Or if they come from Google, same difference. Both. I had someone do the graphical interface, and then I created everything else. This one I really love, and if you go to my website at kristalkraft.com, it's the WP/cycle, and this is where I use my photos, and it is so simple to use. You just upload photos to the site, and then it makes this slideshow, and you can embed that on the page. And you can also do the same thing with YouTube. You can go get embed code and put that on your page as well. So there's lots of good content out there that we talked about. And then here's the one that I did for my neighborhood. I live in a suburb called Lone Tree. And you might want to write this down because this is so absolutely cool, and I can't demonstrate it. But I went and I took, there's 17 different subdivisions, so I made little line maps. And then when you click on, say, that blue one where it says Heritage Hills, what will pop up is a picture of the entrance to Heritage Hills, and then there's a link, search for homes in Heritage Hills. Guess where that link goes to? My IDX site. So go check that out. I made a short code there that you can copy down. And then your neighborhood market reports are really, really important. I know they're boring. In our office, we've hired someone to compile them. And so at the beginning of each month, I'll get these really cool, pretty graphs. And we've just gone to using band graphs, band charts, because they're so much easier to read. And you'll see an example of that on my site at Denver Dwellings today. So for promoting your blog, you're going to put it on Twitter. You probably should have a Facebook business page. If you don't, go get one. They're free. You also want to have a link in your email, drive people back to it. And on all your profiles, you can have a profile on Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, all those. You just have links back to that because that's creating Google juice back to your site. And then when you post a market report, I send that market report out to everybody in my database, from the IDX, from my past clients. So it kind of drives them back to the site. So I've written it for the consumer to find me, and I've provided it to my consumers who have used me in the past. So it gets double benefit. So just think of blogging as an investment in your business and schedule time each week to do it. I can't think of a better way to spend your time than creating content that's going to deliver information like the golden goose who laid the eggs again and again and again. So go do it. And hope to see you tomorrow in class. Clean off your keyboard and start blogging. I've got, it's Kristal, got to spell my name right, Kristal, Sells, SELLS, Denver, DENVER.com. I hate that, but I did it back in the mid-90s, and I'm not going to change it. And then Denver Dwellings, and then DenverPhotoblog.com. Denver Photoblog. I'm not very creative.